She wasn't hired to love them, just clean, cook, leave. But on the footage, when his son had a nightmare and she held him like he was her own, whispering, "I've got you," he realized who was really raising his children. Nicholas Graves stood in the corner of his expansive office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. From up here, everything seemed manageable. Traffic, chaos, people, distant, silent, just the way he liked it. A muted ping broke the stillness. His security monitor lit up with a live feed. Room 3B. The twins' room. He narrowed his eyes. Raina, the new maid, was picking up scattered blocks, humming softly. His daughter clung to her leg. His son reached out from the crib. She was smiling naturally, like she belonged there. Nicholas's jaw tightened. "Everyone's good at acting in the beginning," he muttered. This was the 5th maid in 8 months. He had learned not to trust appearances, especially not gentle voices and warm smiles. Not after what happened with Sophia, the last full-time nanny. He still remembered the bruises, the lies, the silence. So now every room had eyes, discreet, invisible cameras, especially the twins' room, especially where love could be faked. Raina adjusted Evan's socks and tugged his tiny pajama pants up with practiced hands. Her movements were gentle, rhythmic, almost instinctive. Ella stood behind her, holding a worn-out stuffed rabbit. "Rai, is it your birthday today?" Raina smiled. "No, sweetheart, not today." "Then why are you sad?" Ella asked, wide-eyed. Raina blinked, caught off guard. She hadn't realized her shoulders were tense, her eyes a little damp from that letter she read in the hallway. The overdue notice, the eviction warning. Again. But she kneeled to Ella's level and cupped her cheek. "I'm not sad when I'm with you." Evan, clinging to her like a koala, whispered, "Can you stay forever?" Raina swallowed. "I'll stay as long as I can," she said softly. Nicholas didn't know why he kept watching. It was supposed to be quick. 30 minutes of surveillance, proof she wasn't what she pretended to be. But the footage was quiet, real. She didn't sneak anything, didn't whisper into her phone, didn't so much as check a text while with the twins. Instead, she built castles from pillows, sang lullabies in a trembling soprano, and, once, wiped a tear from Evan's cheek with her sleeve like it was the most natural thing in the world. And none of it was for show. He could tell. He didn't want to, but he could. Nicholas closed the laptop sharply and stood, pacing his office. "She's just doing her job," he told himself. "They all start that way." But why did his chest feel heavier? At 6 p.m. sharp, the dining hall was set, silverware lined precisely, warm plates under porcelain covers, candles flickering gently. Nicholas sat at the head. 2 smaller chairs remained empty. "Sir," James, his longtime butler, approached carefully. "The twins are refusing to come down. They want to eat with Miss Raina." Nicholas raised an eyebrow. "She's feeding them in the playroom," James added. "She said it was less formal." Nicholas didn't respond. Instead, he stood, adjusted his blazer, and walked silently to the security room. On the screen, there she was again. Raina sat crisscross on the floor, a bib tied around her neck as a joke. Evan burst into giggles as she pretended to spill mashed potatoes on herself. Ella clapped. Between the laughter, Nicholas saw something terrifying. Joy. Not forced, not structured. Just joy. And then Evan leaned over, touched her cheek, and whispered something Nicholas couldn't hear. But she nodded and hugged him. Ella laid her head on Raina's lap and asked, "Can you sing the butterfly song again?" And she did. Nicholas sat down, slowly, carefully, like the floor beneath him had shifted. He didn't hear the song. He only saw her eyes, soft, tired, and completely focused on his children. He hadn't looked at them like that in weeks. No, months. Later that night, Raina stood outside on the staff balcony, the city lights flickering below her. A quiet tear rolled down her cheek. Her phone vibrated. Her mother again, from the hospital. She ignored the call. She couldn't afford to fall apart here. Not in this house. Not under his roof. She didn't know he was watching. that Nicholas had paused the camera feed on her face, zoomed in, reading her expression like a puzzle he couldn't solve. She wasn't stealing, she wasn't lying, but she was hiding something, and he hated not knowing what. If you were in his shoes, would you have trusted her or walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The rain began just before midnight. Thunder cracked across the sky as Nicholas stared at the monitors in the dim-lit control room, sipping whiskey from a crystal tumbler he hadn't touched in years. He wasn't supposed to be here. The cameras were for the security team, for protocol, for peace of mind. But ever since that moment in the playroom, when his daughter rested her head on Raina's lap like she had found her mother, Nicholas hadn't been able to look away. And tonight, something gnawed at him, a restlessness, a tension in his ribs. He clicked open the live feed, room 3B. The twins were asleep. Sort of. Evan stirred violently beneath his blanket, kicking, his breath starting to hitch. The camera auto-focused. His small body jerked upright. Then came the cry. Sharp. Piercing. "Mommy!" Nicholas froze. The word was like a dagger. His breath caught, fists clenched around the glass. But before the butler's alert could trigger, Raina appeared. Barefoot, wrapped in a worn cardigan, hair loose from sleep. She wasn't in uniform. She wasn't on duty. Yet she ran. She knelt beside Evan's bed, pulling him into her arms before he could scream again. Nicholas's eyes widened. He leaned in, staring at the monitor like it might vanish. Evan clutched her shirt. "She didn't come, Mommy didn't come." "I'm here," Raina whispered, stroking his hair. "You're safe, baby. I've got you." He buried his face in her shoulder. Nicholas didn't blink, didn't breathe. On screen, Raina rocked Evan gently, humming, not a lullaby but something raw, a melody full of ache. She kissed his forehead and whispered something Nicholas had to rewind 3 times to hear. "I know what it's like to miss someone that never comes back." Her voice cracked on the last word. Ella stirred in her bed, drowsily reaching toward them. Raina reached out with her free hand, held Ella's fingers in hers. The room, the screen, the mansion, it all disappeared. Nicholas was 10 years old again, hiding behind his father's desk as his mother packed her things. No one came for him that night. No one ever did. And now, a woman he barely knew, who made less in a month than he spent on cufflinks, was doing for his children what no one had done for him. He felt it before he understood it. Something inside him cracked. He placed the tumbler down slowly, hands trembling. He didn't sleep, just sat in the dark, replaying the footage, watching her tuck the twins in again, brush a strand of hair behind Evan's ear, wipe her face dry before standing and walking barefoot back to the staff quarters. No stealing, no hidden agenda, just love. He hadn't hired her for love, hadn't wanted it, hadn't believed it possible. And now he didn't know what to do with the feeling building behind his ribs. It felt too big, too dangerous. He had tested her, and she passed, but it was he who had failed. The next morning, Nicholas made it to breakfast before the twins came down. He sat in silence, staring at his plate, waiting for them to run in with their usual energy. They didn't. Instead, they walked in holding a paper, crayon-streaked and bent at the edges. "Look what we made," Ella announced, climbing into her chair. Nicholas took the paper. It was a family drawing. 3 stick figures, Evan, Ella, and Raina. He blinked. "Where's Daddy?" Ella hesitated. "We didn't know what shirt to draw you in." Raina flushed red from across the room. They didn't mean... But Nicholas just nodded. "It's okay." His voice was hoarse. He stared at the drawing, the colors, the childish strokes, and for the first time in months he felt invisible. And somehow, that felt earned. At this point, what do you think he should do? Follow his pride or follow his heart? Comment below. The next choice he makes could change everything. The morning after the nightmare, Raina expected a cold shoulder. Or worse, a formal reprimand for being in the children's room after hours. What she didn't expect was nothing. Nicholas didn't speak to her at all. She passed him in the hall, no nod, no glance, not even the polite stiffness she was used to, just distance, clean and sharp. She couldn't tell if she had crossed a line or if he was simply reverting to his usual frost, but she could feel it. The air in the mansion had changed, thicker, more fragile. Nicholas stood at his office window, watching clouds gather again. The twins' drawing sat on his desk, folded shut. He had watched the footage again last night, not because he distrusted her, but because he was addicted to the warmth that lived in those recordings, in the spaces where he wasn't, in the rooms where she belonged more than he did. That truth unsettled him. It should have made him grateful. Instead, it made him ashamed. How had she done so much, while he had done so little? That afternoon, Ella climbed into his lap, something she hadn't done in weeks. Her curls tickled his chin. "Daddy?" she asked softly. "Why don't you hug Raina?" He stiffened. "What do you mean?" "You hug James sometimes. You shook hands with that tall lady last week, but you never hug Raina, not even when she makes us better." He swallowed hard. Children didn't ask loaded questions. They just asked the truth. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "It's complicated." Ella blinked. "You're scared." He stared at her, because she wasn't wrong. Later that evening, Raina stood at the kitchen island organizing the twins' snacks for the week, chopped apples in bags, handwritten notes tucked inside. She liked leaving them messages. "You're brave. You are seen. Today will be fun." Nicholas walked in, briefcase in hand. She turned to greet him. "Mr. Graves." He nodded curtly. There was a pause. She hesitated. "I hope Evan didn't wake you the other night. I know it's not my—" "It's fine," he cut her off. "You were helpful." Helpful. The word landed like a slap. She looked down. Of course. Nicholas regretted it instantly, but didn't take it back. The next morning, Nicholas found something strange on his desk. The twins' drawing, refolded, but something was missing. Raina had erased her stick figure. In its place was a single sentence written in tidy handwriting. "I know my place, sir." Nicholas stared at the note for a long time. He didn't touch it. Couldn't. He wanted to run to her, apologize, explain. But instead he slipped the note into his drawer and closed it. Because pride dies slowly. That night, Raina stood at the bus stop after her shift, staring into the headlights of a passing car, lost in thought. She had never let herself get attached before. The twins were different. That house had felt like a strange kind of home, like somewhere her heart could rest. But maybe she had misread it all. Maybe love, quiet, daily, unnoticed, wasn't enough to earn trust. Maybe the camera she'd always suspected really was there, watching, judging. She considered handing in her resignation. She considered disappearing before she got hurt. Should she leave before she gets burned or stay and fight for the love she's finally found? Comment below with what you would do. It happened on a Thursday. Nicholas was halfway through a meeting when James burst in. An emergency. A call from the twins' school. Evan had collapsed during recess. Dehydration, they said. Fever, vomiting. He needed to be picked up immediately. Nicholas stood so fast his chair tipped backward. "Tell the driver I'm coming." James hesitated. Raina's already on her way. She was listed as their secondary emergency contact. Nicholas blinked. "What? Who approved that?" "You did, sir. 3 weeks ago. You signed the paperwork." Nicholas didn't remember doing that, but something about it, his signature on that form, tightened in his chest like a memory he couldn't quite grasp. By the time Nicholas arrived, Raina was already in the back seat of the car, Evan cradled in her arms, pale and quiet. She was whispering to him, a wet towel on his forehead. Ella sat beside her, clinging to her shirt. Nicholas climbed in, heart pounding. The car pulled away. No one spoke. Raina didn't even look at him. He watched her, the way she held his son, the way Evan's tiny hand clutched her sleeve. He should have been angry, should have taken his son from her arms. But the truth was, he didn't know how to hold him like that, not without it feeling awkward, not the way she did. He finally whispered, "Is he okay?" She didn't turn, just nodded. "I think so." His fever's coming down. Then, softer, "He kept asking for you." Nicholas swallowed hard. They rushed Evan to the pediatrician. After the exam, Nicholas and Raina sat in stiff silence on the hallway bench, across from the exam room. Ella was asleep on Raina's
"He's fine,"
the doctor said, "but I'd advise someone stay with him overnight. He's sensitive to temperature swings and stress." Nicholas frowned. Stress? Children absorb emotional tension, even when you think they don't. The words were meant kindly, but they hit like a slap. Nicholas looked down at his hands. They returned to the mansion by dusk. The rain hadn't stopped since morning. Evan was asleep in Nicholas's arms this time, his weight small, warm, fragile. As they reached the door, Nicholas paused. "Don't go," he said, not looking at her. Raina turned. "Excuse me?" He shifted Evan in his arms. "It's late. The roads are bad. You should stay. There's a guest suite upstairs, next to the kids' room." She hesitated. "I can call James if you'd prefer," he added, already retreating. She looked at him for a long moment and nodded. Midnight came quietly. Nicholas paced the hallway, unable to sleep. The monitor buzzed. Evan was stirring again. By the time Nicholas reached the room, Raina was already there, sitting beside him with her hand on his back. Nicholas paused in the doorway, unsure. Raina looked up. "He's all right. Just dreaming." Nicholas stepped in, moved to the opposite side of the bed. There was a long silence between them, heavy, humid with everything unsaid. "He asked me to sing," Raina said suddenly, a soft smile on her lips. Nicholas chuckled faintly. "He never asks me to sing." "Probably for the best," she teased. Her eyes twinkled. No offense. His smile faded slowly, replaced by something more vulnerable. "I didn't know what to do when they were born," he admitted. "I thought I'd figure it out eventually, but I didn't." Raina's gaze softened. "You're not the only one who's been scared," she whispered. They didn't touch, but the distance between them had never felt so fragile. The next morning, Ella sat between them at the breakfast table, coloring a new drawing. "This one's different," she explained, pushing it forward proudly. 4 stick figures now, 1 tall, 1 medium, 2 tiny. "This is our real family," she said. Raina tried to protest, tried to say something adult, something safe, but Nicholas touched her wrist lightly, just once, and Raina stopped talking. "If love finds you in silence, in the places you didn't expect, do you fight it or finally let it in? Let us know in the comments. Would you trust what you were starting to feel or walk away before it's too real?" Raina was tidying the playroom when she noticed it. On the shelf, wedged between dusty books and unopened puzzles, was a small silver photo frame turned backward. She picked it up. It was a photo of a woman, beautiful, soft eyes, smiling down at 2 newborns, 1 in each arm. It was clearly the twins' mother. The picture wasn't just forgotten, it had been intentionally hidden. Nicholas's voice came from the doorway. I couldn't look at it anymore. Raina turned quickly, startled. He walked in slowly, no suit, no blazer, just him. "She died during childbirth," he said quietly. "Complications. They saved the twins, but not her." Raina put the frame down carefully. "I'm sorry." "I wasn't there," he added, voice brittle. "I was in a meeting. I thought I had time. She went in early. I missed it." He sat down on the playroom bench. His hands trembled slightly. "After that, everything changed. I started building walls, around them, around me, cameras, staff, control. It was the only way I knew how to keep anything from breaking again." Raina sat across from him, her voice softer than a whisper. "You didn't fail them, Nicholas. You were just broken." He didn't speak for a long moment. Then finally, "That's not what the cameras showed me." Later that night, the twins were asleep. Nicholas and Raina stood in the hallway outside their room, facing opposite directions, but emotionally still facing each other. Raina exhaled deeply. "I never told you why I took this job." He turned. She continued. "I didn't want to be a maid. I studied to be a teacher, almost graduated. But then my mom got sick. Dialysis. Hospital bills." Her eyes shimmered. "I took whatever I could get. I sent every check home." Nicholas's brow furrowed. "That's why you're always on your phone in the hallway," he murmured. She nodded. "It's the only place with reception." She looked away. "You thought I was hiding something. I could feel it. Maybe I was, just not the thing you feared." There was silence between them. Then, "I installed the cameras after the last nanny," Nicholas said. "She hurt Evan. He wouldn't say it, but I knew. He flinched every time she touched him. I was too late." Raina swallowed hard. "I understand now," she whispered. They stood there, bathed in hallway light and silence, staring at truths they couldn't unsee. The next day, Raina found a sketchbook in Ella's backpack. It was filled with crayon drawings, some happy, some not. One stood out. It was a drawing of Raina, in a house, holding hands with Ella and Evan, and outside the house, in the rain, was a man. Alone. Nicholas. The image hit Raina like a punch to the gut. Children always tell the truth, even in art. She brought it to Nicholas that evening, placing it gently on his desk. "I thought you should see this." He stared at it for a long time. Then he whispered, "They love you." Raina nodded. "I love them too." He looked up. There was something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Not suspicion, not guilt, but fear. That night, as Raina turned to leave, Nicholas reached for her hand. Just barely. Their fingers brushed. She looked back at him. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. Raina didn't ask what "this" meant. She just said, "Then don't do it alone." When someone finally opens up after hiding behind silence for so long, do you trust it or wait for it to disappear again? Let us know in the comments, would you hold their hand or protect your own heart first? The storm outside had finally passed. Inside the mansion, a fire crackled in the den. Real wood, real warmth. A rare sight in a house built more for function than feeling. Nicholas sat on the rug in a white shirt and sweatpants, of all things. The twins were asleep upstairs. Raina walked in carrying 2 mugs of cocoa. "No cameras here," she teased, settling beside him. He smiled, genuinely. "Not since last week." She arched a brow. "I had them removed," he added. "All of them." Raina blinked. "Why?" Nicholas looked at her. "Because, for the first time, I'd rather trust what I feel than what I see." A silence settled between them. Comfortable, not cold. Then she laughed lightly. "Well, that's a terrible idea." Nicholas grinned. "Probably." For the first time they talked without roles. Not boss and maid. Not billionaire and employee. Just 2 tired souls who'd survived different storms. He told her about boarding school, about running away once and hiding in a janitor's closet for 6 hours. She told him about burning a client's designer curtains at her first housekeeper job, by ironing them. They laughed until their sides hurt. There was no alcohol, no pretense, just cocoa and unfiltered humanity. He looked at her like someone seeing daylight after a long winter. She looked at him like someone afraid to hope it would last. Later they wandered into the music room. It hadn't been used since his wife died. Dust covered the keys. Raina gently wiped it with her sleeve. "You play?" Nicholas asked. She sat and pressed a single note. "Enough to embarrass myself." He sat beside her. "Play something," he said. "I'm not great," she replied. "I'm not asking for perfect," he said. "Just honest." She looked at him, startled by the gentleness. Then she played. Not beautifully, not flawlessly, but honestly. A soft, hesitant melody, like someone remembering how to speak. Nicholas watched her. Not the keys. She finished. The room was quiet. "That," he whispered, was perfect. The next morning, Raina came down to find the twins at the breakfast table, colouring with crayons. Nicholas was with them, barefoot in a t-shirt, flipping pancakes. Raina froze in the doorway. Ella waved. "Daddy makes weird-shaped ones." Nicholas turned with a smile. "She means hearts." He handed her a plate, 2 crooked, heart-shaped pancakes. Raina blinked. "You made these?" "Burned 4 to get here," he said. She laughed. Then she noticed something, the photo frame, the one of his wife. It was back, on the mantel, not hidden. Nicholas followed her gaze. "She was good," he said, "but she's gone, and you're here." Raina didn't reply. She didn't need to. Later that day, Ella came downstairs with a disposable camera she got at school. "Can we take a picture?" she asked. "All of us, a family one." Nicholas looked at Raina. Raina hesitated. He held out his hand. "Come on," he said. "No hiding." She stepped into frame. Nicholas pulled the twins close, one on each hip. Raina stood beside him, her hand resting on Ella's back. The timer beeped. The flash snapped. Just a second, but forever. Have you ever had a moment so perfect you were afraid to breathe, just in case it disappeared? Tell us in the comments, because this felt like one of those moments. Raina was cleaning the office when she saw it. An envelope, torn at the edge, tucked beneath a legal pad on Nicholas's desk. She wasn't snooping. She had come to return a file Ella had doodled on, but when she bent to place it down, the corner caught her eye. A familiar hospital logo. Her mother's name. Her heart stopped. With shaking hands, she pulled it free. Inside was a bill, paid in full, $14,287. She didn't move for a long time. When Nicholas entered moments later, Raina was still standing there, holding the paper, her expression unreadable. He froze. "You paid for my mother's treatment?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Nicholas rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't want to make it a thing." "A thing? I had the means. I wasn't trying to..." "To what? Own me?" His mouth opened, closed. That wasn't what he meant. But the way she held that paper, it was like it had changed everything. "You knew, didn't you?" Raina whispered. "You knew I was struggling. You probably saw it on the cameras. You probably watched me cry outside every night." Her voice broke. "Was all of this just pity?" "No," Nicholas said quickly. "God, no. You should have told me." "I didn't want to insult you." "You did anyway." The room felt colder. Nicholas stepped forward. "Raina, I didn't do this to make you feel small. I did it because you matter. You matter to them, to me." She shook her head, eyes glassy. "No, you just wanted to make sure the help didn't quit before you were ready." "That's not fair." "I opened my whole heart to you, Nicholas," she said, "and you were still trying to control everything behind the scenes." "I was trying to make it right," she laughed bitterly, "by treating me like a problem to solve." Their argument didn't echo through the mansion, but it didn't have to. Ella heard it from the staircase. She stood holding Evan's hand, her eyes wide. "Why is Raina yelling?" she whispered. Nicholas turned sharply, seeing them too late. "Ella, sweetheart, go back upstairs," he said, his voice shaking. But she didn't move. Evan clutched her tighter. Raina's breath caught. "I need to go," she whispered. "Don't," Nicholas said, stepping toward her. But she was already moving. Later that night, Raina slipped a white envelope beneath Nicholas's office door. Inside, a letter. Simple, final. "I can't be in a home where trust must be earned by surveillance and charity. Thank you for the opportunity. Tell them I love them." Nicholas sat in his chair long after reading it, not moving, not blinking. Because losing someone is one thing, but losing someone who loved your children like her, who taught you how to feel again, that kind of loss echoed, and it echoed loud. Later that night, Raina slipped a white envelope beneath Nicholas's office door. Inside, a letter. Simple, final. I can't be in a home where trust must be earned by surveillance and charity. Thank you for the opportunity. Tell them I love them. Nicholas sat in his chair long after reading it, not moving, not blinking, because losing someone is one thing, but losing someone who loved your children like her, who taught you how to feel again. That kind of loss echoed, and it echoed loud. The next morning the house was too quiet. The twins sat at the breakfast table poking their food. "She's not coming back?" Ella asked. Nicholas knelt beside her. "I don't know." Ella started to cry. "I want Raina," Evan said. Nicholas felt the tears rising but forced them down, because he couldn't tell them what he had done. He couldn't explain how trust, finally gained, had shattered under the weight of good intentions gone wrong. If someone helped you in secret, would you see it as love or betrayal? Let us know in the comments. Was Nicholas wrong to help behind her back, or did his silence protect something deeper? Nicholas sat alone in the playroom that night. The toys were still scattered from the twins' last game. One of Raina's handwritten notes lay half-crumpled under a chair. "You are not hard to love." He held it in shaking hands. It had been 48 hours since she left, and every moment since had revealed just how deeply her presence had rewired the house. The twins were quieter, meals left half-eaten, laughter absent. He hadn't touched the security system since. He didn't want recordings, he wanted her. He tried calling once, but the number went straight to voicemail, so he wrote a letter instead. "I don't know how to do this, but I'm trying. You were right. I was trying to fix you like a problem, instead of standing beside you like a person. I've never regretted anything more. Please, just tell me how to show you I meant well, and I'll do it." He folded it, sealed it, hand-delivered it to her building. She never responded. In a modest two-bedroom apartment across town, Raina sat curled on the couch, her mother asleep in the other room. She had read the letter a dozen times. Part of her wanted to run to him, to believe it was love, but part of her remembered every room she'd ever cleaned for people who thought kindness and control were the same thing. She had started to believe he was different, but even kindness, if wrapped in power, could feel like ownership. She wasn't angry anymore, just bruised. Still, she kept the letter and reread it before bed. The next day, Nicholas picked up the twins from school himself. On the way home, Evan piped up from the back seat, "Can we go see Raina?" Nicholas glanced in the mirror. "She doesn't work with us anymore." "But she still loves us," Ella said quietly. "That doesn't stop, right?" He couldn't answer. Ella rummaged in her backpack and pulled out a folded drawing. "Can you give her this?" Nicholas nodded slowly. "Yes, I can." Raina received the envelope that night. Inside, a crayon drawing, 4 stick figures again, 2 small, 1 tall, 1 with a long braid. Underneath, written in Ella's blocky handwriting, "We miss our family. It's not the same without you." Beneath that, a post-it from Nicholas. "This wasn't mine, but I wish it was." Raina's heart cracked open again. She didn't text, didn't call. But the next morning at 7:15 a.m. sharp, Nicholas walked into the kitchen to find her standing there, in a soft blue sweater, no uniform, no barrier, just her. His breath caught. She didn't speak right away. She just stepped forward and placed something in his hand. It was a note, her handwriting. "You don't fix people you love. You walk with them." Nicholas looked up at her, eyes glassy. "Are you walking back?" he whispered. "I'm trying," she said, "but you have to walk too." "I will," he promised. And this time, it wasn't for the cameras. It was for her. Would you have forgiven him? Or walked away to protect your peace? Comment below. Because sometimes love begins with the courage to come back. It started simple. Raina returned to work, not as a maid, but as part of the family. The uniform stayed gone. The boundaries, too. She still cooked sometimes, still picked up toys. But now the kids sat beside her. Nicholas, too. It wasn't about service anymore. It was about being there. One afternoon, Nicholas invited her to the garden. The sun poured down over trimmed hedges and wildflowers. She walked beside him slowly. No pressure, no agenda. "I think I'm afraid," he said. Raina looked at him. "Of what?" He met her eyes. "Of being enough. For them. For you." She smiled sadly. "Then we're the same." They sat on a bench beneath the wisteria, side by side. "No cameras this time?" she asked, half teasing. He shook his head. "Nothing but heart." She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't flinch. A few days later, the twins presented Nicholas with a new drawing. Same stick figures, but this time everyone had their names written above them in crooked, colourful letters. Ella, Evan, Raina, Dad. Raina smiled. "You made the frame too?" Ella beamed. "With sparkles." Nicholas held it like it was sacred, because it was. That night, Evan woke with a cough. Raina was already halfway up the stairs when Nicholas called after her. "Wait." She turned. "Let me try," he said. Upstairs, he sat beside his son, brushing the hair from his forehead. He hummed the melody Raina used to sing, off-key, shaky, but familiar. Evan clung to his hand, and for the first time since becoming a father, Nicholas didn't feel like he was pretending. Weeks passed. Then one Saturday, music filled the playroom. Raina was cleaning, and the twins were spinning around in socks. Nicholas walked in, laughing. "Are we hosting a sock ball?" "Dance with her," Ella shouted. Raina froze. So did Nicholas. But then, slowly, he stepped forward. One hand found hers. No ballroom moves, no practiced steps, just small circles. Quiet laughter. She leaned into him. He whispered, "Do you still think this was all pity?" She looked up at him. "No," she said. "Now I know it was love. I just didn't recognize it at first." He rested his forehead against hers. "I didn't know I could still feel it," he whispered. That night, when the twins were in bed, Nicholas walked into the nursery. Same room, same soft lighting. He turned and looked at the corner where the first camera had once been hidden. He pulled something from his pocket, a tiny velvet box. He didn't open it, just looked down at it, thinking, then placed it gently on the dresser beside Raina's latest note to the kids. "You are loved always." He turned off the light and closed the door. Do you believe true love can survive even after being tested this hard? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever been part of a second chance that changed your life,